Well, since breakfast is the meal that I cook the most of, we always have breakfast around our house. The rest of the day is kind of a catch-can thing, but we always have breakfast and try to have a substantial one. That's what we've done all of our lives, and it's just carried over. It seems to work. But at any rate, I'm going to make a breakfast pie this morning. Now, a lot of people say a breakfast pie. Yes, it's going to be made in a pie pan with a crust, and it's going to be for breakfast. So it's a breakfast pie. Come go along with me on the ride along on this thing. See what it turns out. Well, let's start out with the pie pan. I didn't have a pizza sheet or anything like that would fit in my toaster oven, so I'm using a regular pie pan. It fits in there perfectly, and I've just warmed up a 10-inch flour tortilla here, a burrito size, and fit it in this pan, and it just perfectly fits. Makes a perfect crust. You know, flour tortillas are underrated by a lot of people. They serve a lot of purposes if they just look at them that way. Okay, now I have here about a cup and a half of hash brown potatoes. These were frozen, and I reconstituted them with some hot water. You can use frozen, make fresh ones or whatever you want, but I find that there's no waste with the freeze-dried, and actually in cost they aren't that much more costly than anything else. And I've got some diced onions over here that's going to go in with them. So I'll mix those together, and I'll put the hash brown potatoes in here. Looks like I've probably made more than I really need, so I'm going to take some of those out. Kind of have to do this by sight. That looks like it might be about the right amount now. And at this point you want to first wash your hands and then salt and pepper it. Ought to be enough. And I have here some diced ham. There was a couple ham steaks, and I just diced them up, and they go on next. And spread them around. Well, that's looking pretty good there. Next, I want to break 3 eggs. That'll be enough for this size of a pie here. Into just a little milk. Not much. beat that to break up the eggs and combine it. That looks pretty good. Pie over here. Now I want to pour this over the potatoes. Try to get it kind of evenly distributed over there. And want to salt and pepper that. You do this in layers. And you have layers of flavor whenever it's over. And finally, before the cheese, I want to put 3 green onions chopped on it for garnish. I just want you to know that those potatoes that I took out of here won't go to waste. They'll be used for breakfast tomorrow morning. You know how I feel about wasting food. Just nature with me that I've built up over my lifetime. You just don't waste food. If it's still edible, it's going to be good for something. And finally, is shredded cheese on top of everything. Can't hardly put too much cheese on something like this because it will melt down. Okay, now that's ready to go in the toaster oven at about 350 for about, it's going to be about 40 minutes, I would imagine. I'll check it along the way. Okay, put the oven on bake. 350 and put her pie in. Put it right in the center so it's all heated evenly. And I'm going to set this for 35 minutes to start with and then check it. Well, it's been in there 35 minutes. Let me check it here, and the timer is ready to go off. Oh, that looks great. It's raising in the middle, which indicates it's done, and there's no shake to it. So I'm going to transfer it to a rack here, which happens to be a burner, for it to rest for a few minutes. Here it is on the table, ready for breakfast. Well, I'll have to admit that that came out better than I expected. Normally when I make a recipe or come up with one, I mull it over for a while and make it 1 or 2 times as tests to see how it's going and maybe adjust on it before I even start thinking about doing a video. But on this one, I got the idea for the video to begin with and then sort of fitted the rest in with it. I'm through with breakfast now, and it turned out a whole bunch better than I even hoped for or expected, especially.
It was actually a surprise to me. But I'm going to do it again, and I would recommend that to anybody that wants to make something a little special. It's kind of a quiche and whatnot, but it's a pie. And speaking of pies, I do have a story about pies. My mother, bless her heart, she was the hardest working lady there on the ranch to put meals together that you'd ever find. And she always had the idea that every meal had to end with a pie of some kind. And one time she made this apple pie, and it was a beautiful apple pie, sitting there in the middle of the table waiting for us to finish our meal so we could have a slice of pie. And when we sliced it, we sat down there and we took one bite, and you could not believe how bad that pie was. You couldn't identify what that horrible taste was in it. And my dad looked at me and I looked at him, and he finally says, "Ethel, what kind of seasoning did you use in this pie?" And she said, "Well, cinnamon that I normally use." Well, her kitchen and dining area is a little 12 by 12 shotgun room in a oil field type house with one window, and it was dark in there, and she had a little freestanding cabinet over in the corner where everything was, and her selection of spices was probably about 5 or 6 little McCormick cans, and back in that dark corner, cans all the same size and everything. And she got up, went over there, and she picked up the can, turned it around, and she had the dried mustard. And that's about as far as you can get from cinnamon. Well, we were sitting there laughing about it, and my uncle, my mother's sister's husband, he I don't know what was the matter with him, but he couldn't smell anything, and I guess he couldn't taste it either. He came in and looked and says, "Oh, that's a good-looking pie." And my dad says, "Rex, you want a slice of the pie?" And Rex says, "Yeah." So he cut it, and Rex sat there and ate it and bragged on how good the pie was. And my dad said, "Well, you know, we don't eat much pie here. Why don't you just take that home with you?" And I can imagine if he took it home and they sliced it up there and tried to eat it. But anyway, that's my story of the day. So I'll put this video together and see if I can get it posted. Have a good day.